Bubba Wallace has had enough, and this time, he isn't just calling out another driver. He's firing back at Dale Earnhardt Jr., because while Dale Jr. continues defending one of NASCAR's most talked-about young stars, Bubba Wallace has made it clear that he sees the situation very differently. Now, a fresh debate is exploding across NASCAR. And what Bubba said might tell us exactly why this issue isn't going away anytime soon. So make sure you stay until the end, because this story goes far beyond one incident and one driver. If you enjoy NASCAR news and drama, don't forget to subscribe to NASCAR Nation News. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Bubba Wallace don't usually find themselves on opposite sides of a major NASCAR debate. But that's exactly where they are right now. Because Carson Hocevar has become one of the most polarizing drivers in the Cup Series. Every weekend, he seems to find himself in the middle of the conversation. Some fans love his fearless attitude. Others think he pushes things too far. And Dale Jr. has repeatedly made it clear which side he's on. Dale believes NASCAR needs personalities like Carson Hocevar. Recently, he said, "I don't want him to really change." As a fan and as a broadcaster, what he did today was make the race unique. It's a comment that many fans agreed with. After all, NASCAR has always been built on big personalities, aggressive racing, and drivers who aren't afraid to take chances. But from Bubba Wallace's perspective, there's another side to this story. Because the people sitting in the broadcast booth get entertainment. The drivers inside the cars deal with the consequences. That's why Bubba's frustration wasn't simply directed at Carson Hocevar. It was also directed at the growing praise surrounding him. Speaking on Door Bumper Clear, Bubba's spotter Freddie Kraft pointed directly at the issue. He said Hocevar gets praised by Dale and other people on TV. And that's what suddenly turned this into a much bigger discussion. Because this isn't only about one driver anymore. It's about what NASCAR should reward. Should aggressive moves always be celebrated because they create excitement? Or should there be a line between hard racing and unnecessary risk? Bubba clearly believes that line exists, and Michigan was another example of why he feels that way. Carson Hocevar arrived at his home track with momentum. In many ways, it should have been one of the best weekends of his young career. The Michigan native drove exceptionally well and finished fifth. But that result wasn't the biggest story coming out of the race. Instead, everybody was talking about one restart. Entering turn 1, Hocevar tried putting his number 77 Chevrolet into an opening that barely existed. Contact followed. Then chaos. A 9-car pileup suddenly unfolded. Several drivers became innocent victims. One of them was Bubba Wallace. For Bubba, the frustration wasn't only about the crash itself. It was because this situation felt familiar. For the second race in a row, he found himself dealing with another aggressive move involving Carson Hocevar. After the race, Bubba took Hocevar aside and spoke with him directly. Then came the comments that immediately spread throughout the NASCAR world. While speaking on Door Bumper Clear, Bubba explained the difference between racing hard and racing recklessly. He said, "Suarez is going to run you really hard and force you into bad spots. Carson is just going to put it into a hole that's not there and either almost wreck you or wreck you." Then Bubba delivered the line that changed the entire conversation. He's a hard racer. He's a fast racer. But he races stupid. Those comments grabbed headlines everywhere. But one thing is important to understand. Bubba wasn't attacking Carson Hocevar's talent. In fact, he did exactly the opposite. He openly praised it. Bubba said, "He's one of the fastest in the field, and that's his natural ability. I've got to give respect to it. That's significant." Because when another Cup driver openly admits how talented you are, it means something. Bubba respects Hocevar's speed. He respects his natural ability. What frustrates him is how that ability is sometimes used. According to Bubba, Hocevar attacks every opportunity, even when the risk outweighs the reward. And he's not the only one who feels that way. Inside the garage, frustration toward Hocevar's style has been building for months. At the same time, there are plenty of people who believe this is simply part of the learning process, and that includes Carson Hocevar himself. Following the Michigan incident, he didn't avoid responsibility. Instead, he admitted that he made a mistake. He said, "I didn't mean to do that. I obviously feel bad that I wrecked them and everything." Then he added, "So next time I'll know what to do a little differently." Those comments suggest that Hocevar understands the criticism. He knows there are situations where better decisions need to be made. The question is whether he can make those adjustments while still remaining the aggressive driver that made him successful in the first place. Because finding that balance isn't easy. Even Bubba brought up advice that Kevin Harvick once gave him. He said Harvick told him years ago, "Stop hitting stuff, and your finishes will show." Bubba explained that this was essentially the same message he tried giving Hocevar. Speed can put you near the front, but managing situations and avoiding unnecessary incidents is what keeps you there. Interestingly, even Kevin Harvick believes Hocevar is growing. Harvick recently admitted that his advice for the young driver today would be different from what it was earlier this season. He said, "I think that he's learned enough about how to manage the situations and not tear up his own car." And maybe that's why this entire debate has become so fascinating. Dale Jr. sees an exciting young star that NASCAR desperately needs. Harvick sees a talented driver who is gradually maturing. Bubba Wallace sees tremendous talent that still crosses the line too often. And Carson Hocevar himself admits there are things he still needs to improve. All of those viewpoints can exist at the same time. But one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. Every single week, Carson Hocevar is in the middle of the NASCAR conversation. And that's exactly why Carson Hocevar keeps finding himself in the middle of the conversation. One week, people are talking about how talented he is. The next week, they're talking about another incident on the track. And sometimes because of both. Now everyone heads to the next race asking the same question. Will Carson Hocevar finally find that balance between aggression and control? Or will another incident prove that Bubba Wallace's frustrations were completely justified? Because judging by Bubba's comments, the patience inside the NASCAR garage may already be wearing thin.